Secret friends, unite!
Hey, gang, welcome back to the Secret Friends Unite podcast. We call this one Oops, All Thunderdome, where we're just talking about a topic of the week. This is episode 570. I am Charlie, but of course, I've been here the whole time. And I'm joined by one of my steady eddies, my agent, for lack of a better expression, Kurt Krug. Kurt, good evening.
Good evening, Charlie.
That's where you speak. You sounded like the guy on the news who's like on the remote. There's a big delay. Hey, good evening. But anyway, no, we're back to wrap up talking about season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. And I'm bummed out due to scheduling. We couldn't get Wes to join us. Wes was with us when we kicked this off several weeks back, but he had a conflict. He was traveling with his family. So it's just going to be Kurt and myself. And then we're going to jump. This is a double episode we're going to jump into just for timing's sake. Jump into talking about Punisher. One More Kill, which did air this week, both programs on Disney Plus. That one's going to get a little rough, but hang in there with us. Kurt and I had a little pre-roll conversation that we're going to try to present a wider view of that as much as we can. And we'll save that for later. But before we really get into things, as always, I want to give some love and respect to the great people over on our Secret Friends Unite Patreon at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite, where we do have exclusive programming. So shows that you'll only find there, including the Great Bad Movies podcast that I do with my wife, April. We recently dropped 2001's The Fast and the Furious, and that's a monthly program. All of our shows come out early. This show, for example, the World gets it weekly on a Thursday, but our Patrons listen to it on a Tuesday. And there's an exclusive channel for our Discords. This is the way it all works. Jump on over to that address. Try us out for 1 week for free. You can even stay on after that week for free and just get announcements. We'd just love to see you there. But if you stay on board, your first month can be up to 50% off, and then you stay on board for as little as $2 a month. So we would absolutely love to have you there for the hundreds of hours of geek culture, pop culture, Trek, Star Wars, and comics, all of that good stuff. Patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Okay. Daredevil Born Again. And boy, in more ways than one, what was an absolutely tremendous series that came out 11 years ago. That show came out on Netflix, which is just a crazy amount of time. And as I've been telling you and probably mentioned to the listeners, as particularly on my little kitchen chats I do on our YouTube channel, April and I have been rewatching those old Netflix shows, and we're almost done. We've been watching them in release order, and we're on Punisher season 2, and then Jessica Jones season 3 is next, and then it's over. So we even suffered through Iron Fist, but we'll talk about that more later. But yeah, we're here to talk about the wrap up of Daredevil Born Again season 2, which is the first Disney entry into the grittier actual continuation of that Marvel Netflix universe, which there's a lot of history there. Those shows all ended. Jessica was the last one that ended in 2019. So that was 7 years ago. And we didn't know if we were ever going to see it again. And now it is back, not only with that character, but what we've learned will be the other characters returning as well. So we're going to talk about this the way that we talk about most shows and seasons. We're going to keep our real focus on episode 8, but we'll certainly drift back to talking about the season in its entirety, because we did not cover it beat by beat, because we simply don't have the bandwidth to do that on this program, because we only come out once a week and there's lots of stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about some favorite moments. We're going to talk about moments you could have done without, maybe some missed opportunities, things of that nature. Our wish lists for things we want to see in season 3. The show, season 3 is in production, if not yet wrapped, there in New York City. And have been some great things revealed about that, which we're going to talk about. And then we're going to give a episode 8/full season score 1 to 10, as we always do. So I've been talking for 4 straight minutes. So I'm going to kick this over to Kurt. And Kurt, tell me about some of your favorite moments, not only from episode 8, but also the entirety of the season of Daredevil season 2, Born Again.
Well, Charlie, I'd have to say this episode, this finale, lived up to its hype. everything that was coming to this conclusion, I think they landed everything correctly. They landed everything just right. It lived up to the hype. It lived up to
Yeah.
the hype. At the beginning of the season, it's like, oh man, where are they going with this? And will they give us a satisfying conclusion? Yes, they did.
Yeah.
They did.
And it's rare. It is rare that you really find it in TV in general, because you get a lot of promise and you get a lot of hype, you get a lot of direction, and then you end up getting a lot of kind of predictable beats. You get a lot of throwbacks and things like that. And they didn't do that with this. They continued to kind of confound us with every twist and turn. It's something that I'll touch on as far as something that I loved, and I'll talk about this more in my wrap up, is that I think the parallels with the Kingpin's rampage, which we see in this episode, and of course, full spoilers. So we're assuming that you've watched this by now. If you've not, please definitely go do so. Again, you can find these on Disney Plus. But when the Kingpin is defeated in court by Matt, who makes this amazing sacrifice play and reveals his identity to the court to prove that he is a direct witness to the Kingpin's crimes, when he loses and there's an assassination attempt on Matt as he attempts to leave the courthouse that drives everyone back inside. When the Kingpin finally realizes he's lost and his spoons are all gone, he goes on this incredible rampage. Oh my God. Seeing him tear through people that oppose him, that stand up to him, is this terrifying contrast to what we are living in the United States right now. And I'm getting political. Kurt and I align in the right direction. I would be very stunned if anyone listening to the sound of my voice thinks that what's going on in the United States right now is okay. I just doubt it. I doubt it. And if I'm wrong, secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. Please send me a note, and you can rag on me for being too political. But watching the Kingpin literally tear these people apart, all of these protesters who, I won't say they're nonviolent, but they're not walking in there toting guns. They're in there speaking their mind, executing their right to free speech. He just starts tearing them apart, doing kill punches, throwing people, doing the back snap like he did with Poindexter at the end of the third season of the original show with Bullseye, where he snapped him against the wall and broke his back. The portrayal was both staggering and incredibly provocative, but eerily, this entire season has, with this anti-vigilante task force, contrasting it to what we've seen with ICE in several American cities, obviously most notably Minneapolis, where lives were lost, completely unprovoked, is absolutely terrifying. And it does what entertainment does at its finest, which is not just to entertain, but to give you something like Star Trek does, to put out there this real struggle drawn through this dramatic lens. I was stunned. Kurt, what's something else you enjoyed?
I enjoyed seeing the Kingpin go down, because he's just one of these untouchable villains.
Right.
He's protected. He has influence all throughout, and he goes down finally. But even when he goes down, he manages to get up, because he doesn't see jail time or anything like that. He just has to leave the city, whereas Matt is going to see jail time. Daredevil, the hero. I'm like,
right.
Oh, and there, it just goes to show sometimes, there's no such thing as justice, or, to go really cliche, life's not fair. But
right.
that applies. That applies.
Right.
And I think also in this episode, just seeing Matt as the lawyer, the way he defended Karen in a court of law on national TV, that was a good blow against the Kingpin. And speaking of Karen is a character that no one has seemed to get a handle on. When she's first introduced in the 60s, she's just a secretary.
Gal Friday. Yeah. Very stereotypical. Pining for a husband.
Yes. And then in the 80s, during the Born Again
Yeah.
arc, she becomes a porn star, drug addict who sells Matt's identity out to the kingpin.
Right.
Then she dries out, all that. They seem to have found a balance in Deborah Ann Wool's performance. She's not the damsel in distress. She's not the gal Friday pining for a husband, but she's not this dark porn star, this junkie. She's got a dark streak in her, as demonstrated when she was going to blow Bullseye's brains out. And it wasn't
Right.
one of those things where at the last second she gets an attack of conscience and pulls back. She was going to do it,
Right.
but Matt stopped her, which
Right.
I thought was a very good moment.
Yeah, and she was, and and again, watching the third season of Daredevil again, where we see her backstory and how, when she was drunk and she was high, she caused a car accident that caused her brother's death, and how, she killed quasi in cold blood Kingpin's very close friend and fixer Wesley in that first season of the show, and that's and kind of seeing that come full play. It's a completely different portrayal of the character, and again, we as enthusiasts of both comics and books and basically adapted works will kind of thumb our noses up at like, well, that's not really what that character's like. That's Superman wouldn't do that, Batman wouldn't do that, or whatever it is. But they take Karen Page, and what Karen Page would do is turned on its heel for this show as something that I think is a superior dramatic choice, without
Agreed.
a doubt.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, I think they really did well. Other great bits, Sweet Christmas, the return of Luke Cage. And this was really pointed out in one of the recap videos that I shared with you for getting ready for this, is that the last time we really got to spend any time with Luke was at the end of his own show on Netflix when he took over Harlem's Paradise. He became the benevolent kind of Boba Fett-like crime boss of Harlem. He turned away his love, Claire, who was of course played by the incredible Rosario Dawson. It's like, oh, bro, how could you do that? But we now found, obviously, in the years in between, he has segued into a good portion of his comic book persona, where he has had a daughter with Jessica Jones. But we find out that in what has been speculated in a lot of videos I've watched, he has kind of sold himself to the United States government to do their dirty work overseas, potentially so that Jessica doesn't have to, and she can stay home and raise their daughter. That was one point of view that was put forth by one of the regular recappers that I watch, and I think that makes sense.
Also,
but he
let
comes
me stop you. Let me stop
Yeah,
you
please.
for 1 second. Matthew Lillard's Mr. Charles said to her, if you want to see Luke again, you got to be nice to me, or something.
I'm the guy. Yeah, very true. So, and then he does come back in, and he and Jessica embrace, and she says, "What was it like over there?" And he says, "Well, it was different." So we don't really know what that means, but he's home, and I'll get into kind of my excitement for season 3. Talk about that in a minute. But I mentioned I love Matt's sacrifice play. I know it's irrelevant to say so, but Jessica is awesome, and I love seeing. That's one of my wife's absolute favorite comic book characters, so I love seeing that. And then the movement, I call her Dr. Sexy Heather, but it's Dr. Glenn, who was Matt's girlfriend last season, who is apeshit crazy, and they're teeing her up like nobody's business that she's going to be the new Muse, who is the guy that she had to murder in self-defense in season 1. But I do kind of love how she throat punches the prosecutor Hochberg, and I wrote, without watching the video, I thought she kicked him in the nuts, but no, she throat punches him. But you know what? It's good either way. It's good. It's because this guy's just a pompous twat, and it's good to see him taken down.
Yeah, he was a weasel.
Yeah, absolutely great. So, okay, well, let's shift gears. Let's talk about moments you could have done without, maybe missed opportunities, anything like that. Like anything you're like, I really would have liked to have seen that. I have a couple, one of which is just kind of stupid, but you go first.
Okay. And one is adjacent. One of mine, you have one that's stupid. I have one that's adjacent. So I'll get to that in a moment. You'll figure it out. Okay. While I know Matt sacrificed his secret identity, I get why he did it, and it served the story, and it was true to him. But the thing is, I like Matt's secret identity because today's secret identities are kind of moot.
Yeah, but nobody in the MCU has them.
Yes.
Except for Spider-Man, but even that's a spell.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
But Matt has such a good cover. He's a blind man. Who's going to believe a blind man is Daredevil? And
Right.
that's anyway. I didn't like that. I mean, I get why they did it, but I wanted him to have a secret identity. And it seemed everyone accepted it at face value, but he did throw his billy club, ricocheting it all over the courtroom, and he caught it. So that does
Right.
and
Now, let me jump in here. Wasn't that didn't he do kind of something very similar in the comics in order to win this same kind of case? Didn't he have to reveal himself
I don't
in
know.
the courtroom?
I
thought that was referenced in one of the
Probably.
panels. Yeah, but I mean, it'd be in more modern history, and you and I are a little bit more old timers when it comes to comics, so that's more of our hard drive. But I get the feeling if we look into it, that is something that they pulled from the comics. So, all right, like I said, I've got a legit one and I've got a stupid one, so I'll go with the legit one first.
And then
I'm a little fuzzy about the time jump when we just totally see Matt in the same prison with all of the dicks from the anti-vigilante task force. I'm like, well, they accuse him of assault. So, but we don't see any due process. He's in the restaurant with Karen. They're having a romantic moment, and then he knows he's going to get taken away, and then he's just in jail in solitary, probably for his own safety. And that's just kind of where they leave him. And I get that that's probably purposeful because it's going to dogleg into what comes next. And we'll talk about what comes next in a moment. And so I really should be patient, but they play that whole scene kind of like the end of Endgame, or even the end of like the Star Wars movies, where it's music over, portrayal but no dialogue. So it's just we see characters walking. In this case, we see Matt walking and he's exchanging nods with the dickheads from the anti-vigilante task force.
Even though he can't see him, he can't.
Yeah,
see
exactly.
Yeah.
But even they know that he can see something. But he sees like Geordie LaForge does. It's all shapes and shades and stuff. So or pretty much. You know how it is. So yeah, I didn't necessarily love on that. And then my stupid one, which obviously you're hip to because you're looking at my notes, is like Spider-Man would have fit in so great into all of this, but it's a logistical nightmare that was never going to happen. But if I would have, I was going to say, Kurt and I were at Motor City Comic Con yesterday here in Michigan, and Charlie Cox was a guest. We knew neither one of us was going to get close to him. He was there for one day. The lines were practically outside the building. But in a perfect world, if I stepped up to him and had a chat, I would have said, and I would have expected to get a chuckle out of him, I would have been, "You're in that Spider-Man movie, aren't you?" Because he totally is. Look at all of the stuff we've seen from the trailer. He's fighting the hand ninjas in a cell block in prison. And then all the breakdown videos have shown him when you see the hand, you can't see what I'm doing with my hands, but Spider-Man is, up and to the left, and the hand is coming at him down from the right. A portion of them are jumping away from Spider-Man, and a portion of them are jumping at Spider-Man. They're jumping at something else, and that something else is Daredevil. He's in that movie. That's where we're going to see him in July. I'll put my money on the table.
Okay, yes. And I was going to mention, yes, I was at Motor City yesterday, and it was a wish list. It was pie in the sky to see Charlie Cox. That wasn't going to happen.
Yep.
He had overflow lines you wouldn't believe.
His overflow lines had overflow lines. It was ridiculous. And I was sat there chatting with one of the handlers for a long time, and I stopped by 2 or 3 times, and he wasn't there. But even just to look around the corner, there was a line deep of 200 people going in 2 different directions. So, yeah.
Yeah, the only other thing, it's not a complaint about this episode, but, when it comes to Daredevil's hearing, the scene where Kingpin is on the stand, and then he's in the chambers with the judge, Murdoch, I can make your life hell. And he's hearing him.
Right.
Like, okay, is he Superman sometimes with that hearing of his?
Yeah, you're right. You figure if you and I were in the same room and maybe you were way over there and you were whispering to somebody else, like I'd be able to tune in, but it's not like, you're right. It's not Superman hearing. So it's a little flexibility, a little bit of, it serves the plot to bend those rules. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's just like, okay, what is the extent of his super hearing? I know he can listen in on your heartbeat to see if you're lying, to determine if you're lying.
Up and down, right. Yeah. All right, let's talk wish list for season 3. The most obvious one, and I'm sure you and I are simpatico on this one. We're bringing back the Defenders. The band is getting back together. Footage that we've seen, photography that we've seen, is that obviously not only Jessica and Luke will be reprising their roles, that we saw them both in this final episode. We saw Jessica in the last, I think, 3 of the 8 episodes of the season. But we're also getting back Danny Rand as Iron Fist, which I got to be honest with you, we watched the second season of that show. It had a pretty cool ending. I don't know. Did you end up watching? I know we were both trashing it. Have you seen it?
I don't even think I saw it the first time it originally aired, to be honest with you.
Either season or just the second season?
Just the second. I got it out the first.
It had kind of a cool ending, and I won't. If for some reason you watch it someday or you want to look it up I don't want to be the one to tell you. But it was a weird season, but it had an ending that was kind of cool because they did a heel turn on one of the characters. You know, they had Alice Eve as Typhoid Mary, which was kind of cool. I thought good portrayal. She's a great actress. But anyway, I can't wait to see
a Daredevil villain than an Iron Fist villain. So that kind of is confusing to me, but okay. Marlon asked me, what do I know?
Yeah, I was going to say it's an interesting character that they use, and they do a lot of blending that around because like Iron Man villains and different stuff. And the Hulk had more standalone villains, it seems like, than almost anyone else. There was almost a new villain in every issue of the Hulk back in the day. But anyway, I'm glad to see that they're putting the Kingpin dynasty kind of in the rear view. It's dominated.
Yes.
All of Daredevil. It was all 3 seasons of the original show, even though Kingpin was in jail for a good portion of season 2 and season 3. And then it dominated these 2 seasons here. So it's good to see them moving on because Daredevil does actually have other villains. Kingpin is originally a Spider-Man villain and wasn't really a Daredevil villain until the 80s, I don't think, until really Born Again or even maybe earlier than that. And I don't know because I didn't read Daredevil, but that's my kind of loose recollection. Do you think that's correct?
It was in the 80s during Frank Miller's first run on the book.
There you go.
He made him Daredevil's archenemy.
Okay, yeah. But before that.
Spidey had the Green Goblin. He had Hobgoblin. He had Venom.
Right. They didn't want to consider Daredevil's arch villain to be Stiltman.
No.
Daredevil had some. Well, and don't forget, wasn't it the Matador was the guy who in the Daredevil shows made Daredevil's first costume? Wasn't it the same guy?
Yeah.
Wendell or Marty? Now I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name. But anyway, no.
Melvin, the Gladiator.
Melvin, yes.
Gladiator,
Melvin was the Gladiator. What did I say? Matador. There is a Matador character, but yeah, he's a Gladiator. So I want to know what the hell the deal is with Jessica's powers. She gave birth, and now they kind of go flitty. Can they be fixed? I mean, that's something that'd be cool, worth exploring. But my greatest hope is that if these continue to be successful, might we see some sort of a renaissance, as it were, of the Defenders characters having their own shows again, so that we get to explore more. So I'm psyched about that. I love these characters. I love the tone. I love to see Disney realizing they can tell other stories that aren't super saccharine and that go outside of the Avengers leitmotif, and they can make great television if they choose to do so. They can also make bad television, which they've done some of, and they're still doing some, which we'll talk about in a moment here. But sexy Dr. Heather becomes the Lady Muse because she's just nuts. Yeah, she saved the Muse mask in a drawer, and she's sitting there. She puts it on. This is a creepy scene in this episode. She puts it on, and she's staring through it. But in the reflection, she just sees herself sitting there, all Stepford Wives, looking with her. I always think someone, when they have a shirt buttoned up to the top and don't have a tie, just makes you think someone's a sociopath. That's just my personal opinion. That always freaks me the fuck out. She's scary as hell. And we know that she knows how to manipulate people psychologically. She's physically trained and strong. No doubt that she's absolutely going to have something to do with next season. I don't know that she's going to be the main villain, but it could be a 2-tiered approach. Maybe her and somebody else. Who's your choice for a Daredevil villain if they're to pluck somebody out of the ether? To have Circus of Crime, right?
Not Stiltman. Not Stiltman.
Not Stiltman.
I would have.
Who's another great one?
You have Kilgrave, but that's
he's already dead.
Yeah. Honestly, Bullseye, but they've gotten to
Yep.
him.
He'll be back.
I would have to say Bullet from the late 80s. He's this big dude who's got the girth of the Kingpin, but he can move as fast as the Flash.
Oh my God! I'm not familiar with that character at all. That's cool. Yeah, because we've already had Nuke because they did that in Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not an encyclopedia of great Daredevil characters.
Yeah, nor am I, but I just recall him. And also, I'd like to see what Bullseye does to Mr. Charles. I mean, we all know
because
what's going to happen.
They're flying away together. So, Charles has brought him into the government, which is funny because that's how we met him in the first place. He was an FBI agent who is, he's bitch cakes, cuckoo bananas crazy, and as deadly as anyone else on the show, far deadlier than Matt, frankly. And now are we looking at, Mr. Charles to me is Guy Ritchie, but he's meaner. Henry Peter Guy Ritchie, who we talked about. But could he, and he works for Val. There, who is, of course, Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character, who we saw in the Thunderbolts and other thing. That's heavily implied. So, is he helping to put together a Dark Avengers? That's the question. Because I think Bullseye was Dark Hawkeye, wasn't he? In that outlay.
I think so.
So it would be interesting to see how that all kind of comes together. So so I'm psyched. All right, let's wrap this up. And then we'll get into our second segment. Episode rating, season rating, 1 to 10. Fire away.
I would give this episode definitely a strong 9. Definitely a 9.
Yeah.
And as far as the season went, I would give it an 8.5 or a 9.
Yeah. I rarely give the 10. But I'm going to lean in this direction. The expression, and you'll appreciate this because you and I are both journalists. You're more of a practicing journalist than I am. But the ripped from the headlines expression that has been used in television and radio since the dawn of time to illustrate tackling topics that are topical, things that are happening now, things that are very sensitive, gets thrown around, and it has always been thrown around a lot. But this season just decimated that concept by hitting something on the nose so hard. And so ICE, Anti-Vigilante Task Force, the Great Orange Shit, the Kingpin. You know what I mean? Yeah, I said it.
A year ago. That's what is mind-boggling. It was done about a year ago. And I don't know, maybe the writers didn't think in real life things would be this extreme.
Right.
But you know what? They are. And it was just stunning. You're thinking, I don't want to watch the news. I want to be taken away from all this. And then you're watching Daredevil.
You're taken right back to the news. Oh God. So absolutely crazy. So my feeling is that this is a March show. So come March 2027, I think we're going to see this third season. I don't know. I've not heard what the life cycle of the show is beyond that, but boy, I would like to believe that this show continues to be successful, that they continue to make it, and that it starts to spin, and that the lightning is corked out of the bottle with those which began as the Marvel Netflix characters, that they are now basically the Defenders, what we call the Defenders, that they continue to prosper, and that we see more shows from this. All right. Boy, we're right on time too. So we're going to go from lavishing praise to something that we were definitely excited about. And that would be a special based around the Frank Castle, the Punisher, portrayed by John Bernthal. And I figured, Kurt, let's get our positivity out of the way in the beginning. Now, what we talked about in the pre-roll is that there have been 4 actors who have portrayed the Punisher in live action since 1990. The first one being Dolph Lundgren. I did, complete sidebar, decide to watch Masters of the Universe from 1987 last night. Wow. Dolph Lundgren was the star, but we'll talk about that later.
Is that a good wow or bad wow? Just curious.
I was wowed. I was wowed. Right. Hashtag Tom Paris rules. But it was Dolph Lundgren. It was Thomas Jane in the early 2000s. It was the late Ray Stevenson in the early teens. And then since 2016, it has been John Bernthal, who's an actor I respect very, very much from his time on The Walking Dead and a lot of other cinemas and kind of prestige television, things of that nature. Let me break down for you. I'm going to give you the full description so that we're not just shooting from the hip and we tell you all the particulars. So, The Punisher, One Last Kill, is American television special, directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green and written by John Bernthal. So this is written by John Bernthal. I wonder, not to put the man down, if that could be maybe where this thing went off the rails. But we'll find out. And Green, so he wrote it in turn. So it was written and directed by, and then written in part by Bernthal. For Disney Plus, based on the Marvel character The Punisher. This is the third special presentation of the MCU, sharing continuity, as we know, with the film and televisions of the franchise, produced under the Marvel Television label, which has given us all the programs since Disney Plus took over basically the licensing of Marvel programming of this kind in 2019 with WandaVision, their first program. In One Last Kill, Frank Castle is haunted by ghosts of the past as he tries to move on from his life as a brutal vigilante, the Punisher, after avenging the deaths of his family, only to be drawn back in to the conflict by crime conflict Manucci. That's in the Italian sense, GNUCCI. The special featuring his character was conceived during the filming of the first season of that series, so going all the way back. Okay, and Bernthal and Green revealed to be working on the project. I wonder if they mean the first season of Daredevil, though. It Daredevil Born Again. I'm not sure. That seems kind of weird because the first season of his show was in 2017. So who's
9 years.
Yeah. So Bernthal and Green revealed to be working on the projects in Feb 2025. Filming took place in New York City, mostly in Queens, as I understand it, from mid-July to early August of that year. The title was revealed in March of this year, along with the release date, and it dropped on May 12, so just a few days after when we are recording this. Okay. Buckle in. You may or may not want to disengage at this point if you don't want to listen to two old 50-something guys ramble on about something that we hated, because I dislike doing that, but I also refuse to be everything is amazing and I don't turn a critical eye. There's no doubt that I completely hated this.
Me too.
Completely hated this. Kurt and I talked about it the next day. This was on Tuesday, and on Wednesday we talk in the morning, and we were like, dude, that sucked. Yes, absolutely did. And so we don't necessarily need to go through the traditional beats of this, because I kind of saved all of my thoughts. Well, this ended up being a shorter episode, because I just don't really know what we can say. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's no doubt that they were trying to accomplish what am I looking for? The dark, the dark side, the beating of the telltale heart. What am I looking for here? I've hit my bottom and I'm on my way back up, because the first 20 minutes of this is simply Frank. He's living in a room with no furniture, working out until his fingers bleed, throwing up in a bucket, taking a knife and carving an X through the Marine Corps globe and anchor that he has tattooed on his right chest, which, by the way, he didn't have in the original show. So when did he get it? Because it seems like that would have been something I think of Gung Ho from G.I. Joe. Kurt knows what I'm talking about. Gung Ho was the Marine in the 1983 wave of the second year G.I. Joe came out, and he wore a vest, bare-chested, with a giant globe and anchor Marine Corps symbol in the middle of his chest. So this was a variation of that. It was just off to the left. But he never had it. I mean, I've been watching the show. I'm watching the show right now. Not that he parades around with his shirt off a lot of time, but he didn't have any tattoos in that show. He had a shit ton of scars everywhere because everybody was shooting and stabbing him all the time. So that was added, and that was kind of a gaffe that I didn't care for. But I would almost like to say it's a bright spot that they cast the delightfully wide, an actress who has a lot of range, and that would be Judith Light, who is Angela from Who's the Boss, which all of Gen X 80s kids will appreciate. I did do some research while watching this, to some recap videos, and the whole Mamanucci thing. The angle there is that she was a crime boss. Frank either threw her or she fell into a polar bear exhibit at the zoo, and her arms and legs were eaten off. Because the drawing I saw of her is that she's she's a paraplegic. I don't want to say
Quadriplegic.
Quadriplegic. Thank you. She has no arms and legs. In this, she was in a wheelchair and stood up and got in Frank's face. But she, at the end of it, she was rolling away in a wheelchair and giving him the middle finger. So I'm like, well, she still had arms and legs. So I was like, yo, Angela, why aren't you a stump? I know that's so. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sending your hate mail to me. I've earned it. This, and so that was 20 minutes of this, and that was her. She tracked him down, and she tells this long flashback story of how Frank murdered everyone in her family, starting with her husband, who was a piece of shit, and then her other kid, who was a piece of shit, and then her third kid, who was a pedophile and a piece of shit, killed it in front of her, and there was just so. That was after, that's when Frank finally ventures out. And let's not forget the beginning of this is this poor homeless or unhoused, if you prefer, former Marine with the only happiness in his life is his little dog walking down the street, and some street toughs beat him up, steal his Marine Corps baseball cap, and then he picks up this dog and throws it in front of a truck and it gets run over. My wife was horrified. And don't worry, it comes back around.
Oh, yeah.
So it's already setting the stage, and this is in the first 3 to 5 minutes. So anyway, we jump forward. Frank is suffering. He's drinking whiskey at his wife's grave. He has a cabin in his apartment with all his guns locked up, and he leaves the key there. Like, this is really me giving it up. It's just everything is so telegraphed and heavy-handed, and they're throwing it out there. And then Mamanucci rolls up on him, is like, you killed my last kid at 6:14 p.m. And so at 6:14 p.m., every bad guy in the city has your address, and they're going to come and attack you. So now we're 20 or 25 minutes into a 50-minute program. So then he goes back in his apartment, and he's not getting himself ready. He's just hanging out. And then all of a sudden, doors are getting kicked in, and gasoline is rolled under his door and set on fire, and he catches on fire. And then it just turns into blinding violence. He breaks through the door. He's throwing fire extinguishers at people. He finds a hatchet and puts it into somebody. He grabs guns and shoots people with guns. And it just continues to progress like this until he's outside. That was my other note. This big slaughterhouse spills into the street. And let's not even get started on what's pointed out in the video, that when Frank falls off of a building and he lands backwards on the top of a rooftop HVAC unit or really a makeup air system fan unit, which is something that I sell for my job, so I kind of recognize it. It's this absolutely dreadfully poorly rendered CGI of his face. Did you take note of that, Kurt? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It was really unforgivable. But he's on this street and he's walking down, and there's a burning NYPD car, and it's broad daylight. No other cops seem to show up. It's completely ridiculous. And Frank finally puts it all down by himself. I got to take a breath and let Kurt talk, because I'm exasperated by talking trash about this thing. Kurt, say something, please.
Okay. I agree with you. It was, as you said yesterday, this was video game violence. It felt like watching somebody play Grand Theft Auto.
With no cars.
Yeah,
barely
exactly.
any cars.
Now, a lot of things about the story didn't make sense. Number one, Manucci giving up his address. Okay, bad guys are afraid of him. A lot of them would stay away from him. Yes, some would want to try to make their names.
But not everybody.
Yeah, not everybody. And also, this was supposed to fit into Daredevil. How? Manucci had nothing to do with the Kingpin.
Right.
She had nothing to do with any of that. And so how does this fit in? The only thing we got was him hallucinating Karen Page hugging him. I'm like, okay, that was the Daredevil tie-in? No, that was bad. And
they tied him back to the old show with Curtis appearing. And I'm watching that season now. I'm not sure if Curtis lives. But then again, Karen was alive. But it's just his hallucinations weren't just dead people, because in one of the recap videos, the other two Marines who are reciting the Recon Marine credo with him, those aren't characters. Those are real life Marines who do YouTube videos about being Marines. So they have nothing to do with anything. And so it's no tie back. It's nothing.
Not only that, we show that he's tormented, but they just kind of take a back seat to that, to the violence. So why aren't we getting into more of his troubled psyche? And honestly, do we need to really get into his troubled psyche? We know he is batshit, okay?
Right.
His family got wasted before his eyes, got slaughtered before his eyes, and that's why he becomes the Punisher we all know and love, etc.
Yeah, we do in our own way,
etc., etc. And yeah, it just made, you're right, it was all telegraphed. It was just ridiculous. And the ending, it just felt very abrupt.
Right.
Because we don't even get to see him take out Manucci. We need to see that. I mean, if they're going to be doing this kind of buildup and have, him killing her sons the way he does, we see in flashbacks.
Why didn't he kill her?
Yeah.
Why did she live?
Because probably she was a woman in a twisted sense of honor, because he does have that.
He killed plenty of women in this other show.
I know that, but that's called plot armor, I guess. It just made no sense. Nothing about it made sense. All love and respect to John Bernthal, who's the best Castle we've had. I just think he didn't do a good job of writing this. I'm sorry, John. I hope you don't punish me if you see this.
And what boggles my mind is that this seemed to be universally beloved by the fan community out there.
And I don't
people are really into it, and I just don't know why. And I hope it's not a case of, I hope it's not two things. Hopefully, Kurt, hopefully that you and I aren't just too old to enjoy things. That's what I'm afraid of.
No, somebody we are acquainted with praised it on Facebook, and he's a little older than us. I'll tell you who offline.
All right. No, that's fine. I couldn't even bring myself to watch it a second time to do a notes watch. I watched his recap video because I don't want to see it again. This is a Secret Invasion level trash to me. Mm-hmm. It's just, you took something that it did not advance anything. You're right. It's dry ground to say, well, Frank is disturbed, and this is why he's disturbed, and it means this thing and that thing. We went through this for 2 seasons of his show, which I thought were really very well done. But I don't want to say Punisher is like Boba Fett, where, well, maybe we don't need to see him more as anything but a side character. He is a part of the cast of Spider-Man Brand New Day, and so he'll play a role. But as far as something like this did not do any service to the character at all. It didn't bring back anything to wrap up threads. Like I said, Manucci was a new character. There's no resolution. She just gets in her car and drives away with her finger in the air. And does he later then catch up and kill her? And then at the end of this, he's just like, all right, I'm the Punisher. I'm back on the street. And that Tough, who threw
the dog in front
of the dog, and so Frank has him, cornered, and the this poor unhoused, down on his luck former Marine says he took my cover. He says, give the man his cover back. And then the old man says, well, that's not all he took from me. And Frank just whips a knife into the Tough's back. It's an actual cold-blooded murder. And then just shoots him in the face. This guy he's terrible, but I don't know. Yeah. And Frank doesn't even know why he did it. Well, that's not all he took from me. And Frank goes, okay, thunk. And then he shoots the guy in the face. And so for people who entertainment is a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I get it. And I don't shy away from watching violence. It's like my mother won't watch Game of Thrones because it got too violent for her. I get it. She's in her 70s. It's not her thing. I can dig it. I can handle violence. I can handle a story that goes in different directions and stuff like this, but tell me a story that is going somewhere that informs on a character that we've known for some time, but there's no growth, there's no direction, there's no satisfaction, and I just don't know why people out there are enjoying it. So, I mean, I'm rating this as completely skippable and giving it my lowest rating of all time, which is somewhere between, I feel like I can't rate something as a 0, although I may have at some point in doing this podcasting for many, many years. I gave this like a 0.5 to a 1. You know what I mean? I can't really give something a negative rating, and I don't feel like rating something as a 0 because I love Marvel having the visibility and being out there. And I like that people are enjoying it because it keeps Marvel in the zeitgeist. It keeps them in the conversation. That's all the 0.5 is worth to me, because I found nothing useful about this story in any way, shape, or form.
And your 0.5 is being kind.
I think so.
I'm giving it a 0 because it was just bad. It was just bad from start to finish. And one thing, too, about Punisher is writers have said this. He's a villain in his own book. He needs to have a foil. And I feel he works better as a foil to these moral heroes like Daredevil and Spider-Man.
Right.
I mean, I loved the preview of the upcoming Spidey movie. Oh, come on, Frank. Yeah. And he throws him out of the truck, you mother. And before he could say it, he gets his mouth webbed up as a way of saying, hey, this is a PG-13 film. Watch your mouth.
You can't use my F-bomb. Yeah. You can only have one.
So that's the thing. And I don't know how he'll stack up against Tom Holland, because I can't imagine this incarnation of the Punisher having any tolerance for this incarnation of Spidey.
Right.
But that'll probably make it a nice juxtaposition when the movie comes to town.
Right. And we are very excited about that. And if you've been following this channel, we are covering in our summer Spider-Man series, we have covered Spider-Man 2002 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2012. And in our next episode here, Peter and I will be talking about Spider-Man Homecoming. So we are covering some of the films because that's my movie of the summer. I'm very excited about that. I love Spider-Man. I've loved Spider-Man since I was 10 years old. And Tom Holland, I think, has done absolutely incredible things with the role. But that is the end of our show. And again, I hate to be that guy that has nothing good to say about something, but there finally came an occasion where I found it to be completely unavoidable. So that being said, as always, please reach out to us on social media. Kurt, I know we can find you on Facebook. People can find you there if they want to chat with you. But with me, I run the social medias not only for Secret Friends Unite, but also for myself. You can find me on all the big socials with the exception of X and TikTok. I am at the C3, TheCeeThree. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me why you love this. It's okay. Also, if you're part of our Discord or find us on Discord, join that and join the conversation there. I am totally happy to entertain someone's idea. Tell me something that we didn't talk about. Give me a different perspective. And of course, if your thoughts are long and rambling, which I totally understand. I mean, we've been on this podcast for 47 minutes now. 47. secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. We'd absolutely love to hear your thoughts. But with that, we have come to the end of this road. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.